Welcome to episode 4 of The Mystic Feminine. I am your host, Lucia Dami, and this is a space where I share with you about topics that I'm passionate about in a more personal and in-depth way. These topics often involve spirituality, mysticism, the divine feminine, the feminine archetypes, tarot, and creativity. So welcome to this space, and thank you for being here. Today's episode is a little bit different to the ones that I've shared previously because I recorded the majority of it earlier this month without recording the video. It was unplanned. What happened was that I went into a bit of an underworld space. It was very intense emotionally, and I kept hearing this voice in me say, get your microphone and talk. Like, just go and record yourself talking. And in those moments I was like, well, this is a bit strange because one, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. And two, isn't that a bit self-indulgent to, to like cry into the microphone? And that's how I felt when I had that intuition. It felt a little bit, I judged myself for it. And it's interesting in those moments when we hear those voices come up and what they say, the criticisms that they have, the beliefs that we hold about certain behaviors. So anyway, I kept kind of brushing it aside. And then one evening, it really felt like it wasn't just something that I was being nudged to do for no reason. It felt like something that was actually going to help me process what I was going through. And it did. And so I recorded, I got my microphone, I pressed record, and I started talking. And the more I spoke, the more I was like, oh my God, am I being so overly vulnerable? If this is going online, is this the right thing to do, for myself? But in the end, I decided yes. And so, I've honestly only listened to the episode, I think, a couple of times while I was editing it. I think if I listen to it one more time, I will not share it online because it is so vulnerable for me to share this. I was in a really bad, quote unquote, bad space. I think I've shared since the beginning of this podcast that I've struggled with this pattern for years. I go into these kind of little, let's call them depressions. They come, they go, but while they arrive, they completely shut me down. And it's been very frustrating because when I have a goal or I'm in a creative flow, these underworld moments come and snatch me from my reality, and that's what it feels like. Like I'm helpless. I can't control it. I'm fine, and then I'm not fine. And not only am I not fine, I can't function. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to show up for myself. I don't want to show up for my dreams. Not even that I don't want to. I feel like I cannot. I don't have the capacity for it. And that's what led me to go to therapy earlier this year. I've done all kinds of healing methods in the last few years, but I felt that it was time to do therapy, and I was very intentional with choosing the type of therapy and also the therapist herself. It took me a while to commit to the right person and the right type of therapy, and I recommend that everyone goes on that journey for themselves. So I'm doing, I've mentioned before, this Jungian analysis, and it's been so interesting. And part of why it's been interesting is because I've always identified as someone who's very self-aware. And I've gone over my childhood and all the things that have caused me, to have limiting beliefs, to have traumas, to have wounds. And I've gone over them so many times that I didn't think that anything could really surprise me. And yet this one week, earlier this month, during a session, we spoke about things that were not revelational, and yet there was something about that session that unlocked some unconscious emotions, some very old frozen emotions. And during the week after that, I just went so deep into this emotional darkness that that I have felt for a very, very long time, but I never really allowed myself to, like, I don't know, be in it consciously. And I've repeated this kind of theme throughout the previous episodes as well, about bringing consciousness into our underworld moments, bringing consciousness into those cyclical deaths that happen. But this was a moment where I was really living it in real time, in a way that in like a deeper way than I had before. And surprisingly and unsurprisingly, at the end of that week, I was giving a workshop on Persephone and the story of the maiden and her descent into the underworld, the initiation of that descent. So it was almost like I was going through this initiation myself, this mini initiation, to help me bring more authority into what I was teaching. And the beautiful thing was that as soon as I gave that workshop, I was lifted out of that space emotionally. And yeah, I didn't go back there after that. Not in that way, at least. Of course, it's not like that part of me just disappeared, but I definitely came back into a more grounded, centered, empowered space after that workshop, which was beautiful. Actually, in the following weeks, I had some really beautiful integrations with my inner child, again, in ways that I don't think I was able to access prior, because there was definitely some, let's just call it, some old frozen emotions that unfroze and were processed. And in that processing, you do kind of unlock gifts. And for me, those gifts in part were this connection to my inner child and this new integration with aspects of myself that I had not felt safe maybe to fully embrace and honor. So if you're watching this, since I didn't record myself film myself while I was recording it, I have put some visuals of me creating some art for my upcoming exhibition. The piece that you see me making here is a new interpretation of the Chariot from my Elysian Tarot using a new medium. It's not a complete artwork. I just want to say that because I'm a perfectionist in the way that I share my art. And what you see in this video is really just the beginnings of what the artwork looks like. I will be sure to share the final piece with you in the next episode, I guess. Yeah, the link to my exhibition will be in the description below. If you're in the UK, please come for the opening if you can make it. If not, the work will be up for 3 weeks after that, so you can go and view it yourself. And that's it, really. So I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. So I've been feeling this nudge all week to record an episode for my podcast. And I'm not exactly sure why or what it is that I'm supposed to say, to be honest with you, but I'm listening to this nudge and I've sat down and I have had a lot on my mind, so maybe I do know what it is I'm meant to share. I just have a doubt about it. So from the beginning of this podcast, if you've been listening since episode 1, I've been talking about this descent myth of the goddess. And I've alluded a little bit to my own experience with cyclical feelings and how to live in attunement with these cycles instead of against them. You know, on a conscious, intellectual level, I've always understood that certain patterns and feelings and lessons, they have to return many, many times before we can really move past them or transform them into something new. Better said that way. Because we never really let go. Nothing ever really ends. It just takes a new form, you know? And I think I actually needed to hear myself say that. I've been in that underworld space this week. And ever since I was a child, I've always had the hardest time showing people my suffering or my pain or my sorrow. I've been very, very good throughout my life at hiding it away. Until probably getting into a long-term relationship, the one that I'm in now, where I could no longer really hide that from my partner. You know, he always sees right through me and has always seen right through me. And when we first met, he was one of the first people that really honestly reflected back to me that I was carrying a lot of melancholy. And I remember feeling a little bit upset with him for saying that because I didn't think it was true. And in hindsight, the reality was that I just identified so strongly with my melancholy that I didn't really want to look at it as something that was maybe not a good thing. And it's not that he pointed it out as a flaw, but he just pointed it out as something that might be holding me back. And you know when you hear something and you cannot unhear it? It was one of those moments where I didn't want to accept what he said, but it definitely did catalyze transformation for me. But this week I've been thinking about that melancholy, and it's something that I have worked on in different kinds of therapy in my life, but I think this particular therapy that I'm doing now, the Jungian analysis, which I've mentioned in a couple of episodes, has been the most effective at bringing me face to face with this aspect of myself. And I was thinking about it a lot this week because in my last therapy session, we kind of opened up a box that I wasn't expecting to open up, or rather, I wasn't expecting that box to unleash such a tsunami of emotion because it wasn't something that I thought was repressed. We were talking about memories that I've remembered and gone over and unpacked so many times. But maybe there's something about doing it in an environment that truly feels safe and secure that allows these things to arise more meaningfully, more consciously, maybe. And so it wiped me out this week. I'm not going to lie. It wiped me out in a way that I wasn't expecting, and that brought back a lot of memories of times in my life where I've been very sad, very melancholy, just engulfed in sorrow. And it's been a painful process to look at it and go, this has never, for all of my efforts to try and get away from this part of me, it has never left me, and it was never supposed to. Maybe that is the hardest thing to accept, and maybe that's why I needed to hear myself say what I said earlier, which is that nothing ever really ends, it's just transformed. And maybe for a long time I've been trying to end this cycle or end this part of me that is so sad. I'm laughing because, I mean, if you listened to my last episode, I spoke about how sometimes it's important not to take things so seriously, and I have to laugh at the level of sadness that I feel sometimes because it is a bit silly. Like, at least it's helpful for me to put it in that context. It might not be helpful for everyone, but it is helpful for me to laugh about it. Because otherwise I just drown. And I think that having a sense of humor about challenges is sometimes really important. But I think this notion of transforming it is maybe the better route to go down. And maybe within that path is also a level of acceptance. Because maybe if you face something with the intention to end it, and with this desire to just get rid of it, maybe the resistance that you have against it just causes it to persist, right? That famous saying, what you resist persists. And maybe by approaching something, an aspect of yourself, a cycle, a pattern, with the intention to transform it, there's a bit more acceptance of its presence. Because when you're transforming something, it takes a while until it has taken a new form, right? It remains, despite it changing shape, it will remain until it's in a new shape. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm not making a lot of sense, but honestly, these thoughts are coming into my head right now as I'm speaking them out loud. So there you go. And I'm absolutely not sharing this for anybody to pity me or tell me that it's going to be okay or to give me support. I really am not sharing that. I'm not sharing what I've shared in this episode to receive any of that. If anything, I'm doing it because the reason I'm sharing this at all is really only because I felt the nudge to do it, and also because from the beginning of creating this podcast, the deeper intention was to just be more authentic and to share a more authentic part of myself online. Maybe I'm being too vulnerable. Yeah, you know what, maybe I am. Maybe I should not share this online. Because I really don't want this to foster any kind of trauma bond or people sending me a message of support. I really don't want that. If anything, I want this process that I'm moving through to be a process that might help you feel like if you're going through the same thing, you're not alone. And in the myth of Inanna, when her sister Ereshkigal, who is the queen of the Underworld, condemns Inanna to death, she doesn't release Inanna. She doesn't allow Inanna to be brought back to life until these two little demons get sent to the Underworld to empathize with her. Because Ereshkigal is in hell, and just because she's the queen of the Underworld doesn't mean she's not suffering. She is down there, she is in the muck, she is feeling the pain, she is lamenting, grieving, moaning, she's suffering. And when these two little flies, who are demons in this myth, whatever demons means for you, I think to the ancient Sumerians it might have meant something a little different, but they were little demons and they went down and they empathized with her. They cried with her. They moaned with her. They validated her complaints and validated her suffering and suffered with her. And that empathy transformed her punishment on Inanna to compassion and generosity. And she let Inanna go, and she brought her back to life. And I was pondering on this earlier today, on what that looks like. What does that compassion look like on a human level when we're down in the depths of despair, fear, shame, when we're down in the underworld, and we feel like we're dying. what is the equivalent of those two little demons coming and crying with Ereshkigal Gal that transforms that pain and that void of darkness into life again and into creative expression and hope and rebirth? Because it's not always as simple as someone saying like, I understand, or like, I'm here for you. I think it's maybe more feeling that someone else is really there with you, experiencing it with you, living through it with you. And maybe that's what I'm trying to do with this episode for anyone else who might be going through a difficult time. And I just want to, I do just want to say this. Nothing is actually happening in my life outside of me that is a cause for concern or even a cause for these feelings. These feelings have been brought on because of a therapy session that unpacked some very old stuff. But I don't think it makes a difference what your circumstances look like, because everyone's version of the underworld is different, but it's all heavy and always going to feel somehow scary and sometimes hopeless. And tomorrow, unsurprisingly, I'm holding my workshop on the myth of Persephone and her story of the descent to the underworld. And I was meant to be going over my notes today, and I couldn't do it. I was taking a nap this afternoon because I just kind of gave up on trying to do anything. And I was lying there thinking, oh my God, just kind of talking badly on myself for the fact that I can't find the motivation or the focus to be productive, to move towards my goals, and thinking this is always the case. Like whenever these waves of emotion come up, I just kind of abandon everything and let everything go, and I'm just going to fail, and I'm letting myself fail. And I then paused and realized, actually, what I'm feeling and living through in this moment is exactly what I'm supposed to be teaching tomorrow. So if this isn't work, I don't know what is. So I allowed myself to lean even deeper into what I was feeling and to transform the narrative around it from something that was taking me away from my success to something that was adding to my success. And maybe the success is the wrong word. Maybe it's about strength and capability and confidence and resolve. And maybe the reason that I've been feeling this nudge all week to just speak into the microphone and add this to the library of my podcast is because sometimes you have to give a voice to the parts of you that you just want to silence, or that you've been taught should be silenced. Reading this book that I've been speaking about, which I will link below, has probably also given me a sense of empowerment around my underworld moments in a deeper way than I had before, and seeing these moments differently, not as something that I need to hide, not just hide from the world, but also kind of hide from myself. Because there is an element of amnesia that happens when I have these moments and I let myself sink, and then I wait because they always pass. And when they pass, I'm like, okay, that never happened. That we're out of it. We're back to reality now. That was not me. And maybe recording this and posting it is a way for me to actually reclaim an aspect of myself that I've kept separate. So I guess that's the end of this episode. I don't feel that I have anything more to share on that topic or with that thought. I don't know who this is going to land with. It may be that this episode is really just for me and not necessarily for anyone else, but if it does touch someone out there listening, then please let me know. Send me a message, leave a comment. After all, the whole point is to remember that we are never alone and we're always in connection with one another, even when we feel the opposite. And even when we don't necessarily want to be going out and socializing or, being with people, sometimes it's helpful, even in those moments, to know that energetically you're still connected, and sometimes that's enough, depending on what you need in that moment. But whoever you are, thank you for listening. I will connect with you in the next episode. Bye.